up in the sky. Look, it's captivating. It's energizing. It's Eliances Heroes. Eliances is the destination for entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, inventors, leaders, celebrities, and startups, where our heroes in business align. Now, here's your host flying in, David Kogan, founder of Eliances.
That's right. Are you ready to learn some incredible things from our heroes? I mean, the lineup again, I'm so excited always because we learn so many secrets. Later on in the show, we're going to have the founder of a yard house. He sold his company for almost $600 million. We're going to learn about that. Later on, we've got, are you ready? Judy Tenuta. She is the comedian, the petite flower and love goddess. And later on, we'll be ending the show with the Vice President of Compliance at Direct Source Wealth, Dave Grimm. And thank you, too, for the feedback we continue to receive on the interview that I had with Jerry Mathers of Leave It to Beaver and the feedback from our interview with the former owner of the Dallas Mavericks NBA basketball team. So let's get started with our next hero. Now, we all know about the Rat Pack and the gang that used to hang around with the legendary Frank Sinatra. So we've got our next guest that was part of the gang, Tom Dreesen. You can connect with him at tomdreesen.com. Tom, what is the funniest joke you could recall or that you've ever written?
Well, I mean, I've done over 500 appearances on national television, 61 appearances on The Tonight Show, where you had to do a new 6 minutes every time you did The Tonight Show. So I've written 1,000 jokes or more, for my act. But a lot of it depends on where you're at. Sometimes you can do a joke in the community you're in that applies only to that community that would get a roar. But probably the joke that that was always a staple, and it actually happened. But I wrote this joke years ago that I was at a school reunion. One of my teachers came up to me and said, "You don't remember me?" But I said, "Yes, I do. Your name is Richard Bruno, and you teach algebra." He said, "That's amazing." I said, "Listen to this. X to the fifth power times x to the fifth power is x to the 10th power, because in algebra you don't multiply exponents, you add them." He said, "That's incredible." I said, "You know what else is incredible? That's the first time I've ever been able to use that since you taught it to me."
Oh my gosh, great. Now you've been on a ton of talk shows. You have been extremely successful. You're a good friend. You were good friends with Frank Sinatra. Take me back though. At what point did you know what? This is what I can do. This is what I want to be. And this is what I can make a living doing, because as you know, being a comedian in show business is extremely competitive.
I toured with Frank Sinatra for 14 years as his opening act in 45, 50 cities a year. I was a pallbearer at his funeral, and I spoke at his funeral. It was one of the highlights of my 48 years in show business. But it all began with many years ago. I was in a civic group in Harvey, Illinois, a suburb on the south side of Chicago, called the JCs. And I wrote a drug education program teaching grade school children the ills of drug abuse with humor. It's a concept I had to make the children laugh a lot and then plant the seeds. They weren't teaching drug education at a college level or a high school level, let alone at an elementary school level when I did that as a civic project. Helping me on the program was a young black man named Tim Reed. The program became very successful. And the JCs use it as a model program in 50 states and in 22 foreign countries in their publications. And one day a little 8th grade girl said to Tim and I, "You guys are funny. You ought to become a comedy team." And the thought of a black-white comedy team intrigued us because no one had ever done that before. So we became America's first black-and-white comedy team. And the history shows now we were not only the first, but we were the last. And we worked clubs all in the North and the South back in the day. And that's when I knew. I mean, the first time I ever went on stage and I got a laugh at something I had written, it was like an epiphany for me, like the dark clouds open up and the sun burst through, and my whole being went, yes, oh, yes, this is what I want to do. And that's what I've been doing for 48 years.
And Tom, what was it like seeing yourself for the first time on TV? I mean, again, you've been on TV so many times and stuff. You've performed so many times. What was that like, really being on the other side where you see yourself really first time on TV?
Well, when first time you see yourself, you cringe because you think you don't look good and you think you don't sound good, and you almost don't want to see it. But as time went by, you start learning some skills on how to work on television. But probably the most incredible time was my first appearance on The Tonight Show. In those days, wherever you went in America, people say, "What do you do for a living?" You say, "I'm a stand-up comedian." The next question out of their mouth was, "Oh, yeah, you ever been on Johnny Carson?" If you hadn't been on Johnny Carson in the eyes of America, you weren't a comedian. That first appearance on The Tonight Show, I was struggling. I had a wife and 3 kids. I could hardly make rent money, grocery money. And that first appearance on The Tonight Show turned my whole life around. I got like 11 applause, and Johnny Carson called me back through the curtain to come back out and take another bow. And the next day, I have never stopped working since that first Tonight Show. The next day, my whole life changed. So seeing that performance really, really bolstered my confidence in that if I could score there, that I could score anywhere.
And again, we're talking with Tom Dreesen. He's performed all over, comedian. He's opening act for, over 14 years with Frank Sinatra. Now, Tom, you also, too, you talk a lot about life in your acts and stuff. Tell me about really what you see has been the meaning of life. I mean, you've been around, tons of stars in that, in show business. You're a family man. Tell us about really, though, what you think the meaning of life is.
I think that my favorite quotation is, some men measure their lives by days and years, others by love affairs, passions, and tears. But the truest measure under the sun is what in your life for others you've done. And I think that's what the meaning of life is that pay it forward, that, we're only here just for a blink of an eye. And if you can help somebody on that road, in their struggles, that's what you should do. And that's what I think you should do with your celebrity, with your money, with any success that you accomplish and wealth that you accumulate, is to give back. And so that's part of. I have never met a successful man or woman in my lifetime who didn't know that you can't keep taking from the stream, that you have to put something back in.
Now, Tom, I have to confess to you. Now, I've been to a lot of entertainment things and a lot of speeches and that, and usually I'm one that fidgets. I just can't sit still. Every 5 minutes, I'm moving around, I'm looking at my phone and all that. Recently, I attended one of your acts, and I got to tell you, the entire time I was so captivated by everything that you were saying, because it just related not only to me but everybody else that was in the crowd. And tell us about the current project that you're working on now.
Well, I do. I'm doing a 90-minute show now called An Evening of Laughter and Stories of Sinatra that I do in theaters all around the country. In fact, I'll be bringing it to Arizona, I think, in March. We're negotiating right now. But my passion is, I'm a stand-up comedian first, last, and always. I'm an actor, and I've acted in film and motion pictures and stuff like that. But my passion is giving motivation speeches. I speak on 4 subjects: perception, visualization, self-talk, and develop a sense of humor. And that's where you were at, David, when I gave a motivation speech to the Tempe Chamber of Commerce. And you saw that, that presentation. And that's a passion of mine. And those 4 things, perception, visualization, self-talk, and develop a sense of humor, I elaborate on all those. I've used those sciences and those skills to come from a family of 8 kids. I had 8 brothers and sisters. We lived in a shack. 5 of us slept in one bed. We had no bathtub and no shower and no hot water. A rat-infested, roach-infested shack. And parents who liked to drink, and problems that I had as a child. I overcame all that using these skills that I talk about in my motivation speech. And today I'm a very happy, successful man because of those skills. And I could elaborate, but we don't have that much time.
In fact, Tom, we've got a little less than a minute left, but I need to let our audience know you have 3 of your own children. What advice would you share with we have many parents that are listening now, that you would share with them to share with their children to have them be successful in whatever they do, and as successful as how you've been so successful in life?
I think the basic foundation is that they feel loved. If a child feels loved by the parents, feels that they're loved, then that's the foundation that they can spring forward from in the future. that the foundation of your house has to be strong. And if their foundation is that they know that they were loved, and that love also might mean discipline. That sometimes when you discipline a child, it hurts you more than it hurts them. But you know that if it's coming from love, then that's very important. There's so many other things I could elaborate on, but I would also teach them a sense of humor. A sense of humor is not when you have the ability to laugh at other shortcomings or misfortunes. It's when you have the ability to laugh at your own. Let your children, whenever you make a mistake, share it with them. Share it some dumb thing that you did that day that made you look silly, and then laugh about it with the children. And they'll realize that it's okay to laugh at yourself. It's okay to make mistakes and then laugh at yourself.
Well, Tom, incredible advice. You're a hero. You're a legend. You've brought so much joy and treasure to so many. Thank you, Tom Dreesen, who could be reached at TomDreesen.com. David Kogan with Eliances, and when we return, the founder of Yard House.